Hello and welcome. You're tuning into Smart, Not Scared, our conversation about travel safety in Italy. I'm Elizabeth Heath, Liz. I'm a travel writer. I've lived in a medieval village in Umbria on top of a hill for 17 years. And from here, I run Villaggio tours and we do small group, slow travel trips based in our village.
And I'm Laura Itzkowitz. I write the New Roman Times on Substack and write for many other publications on a freelance basis. I'm based in Rome and I cover Italy the way someone who actually lives here does, which means I know where the good stuff is and I also know where to keep an eye on your bag.
Exactly. And we call this episode Smart, Not Scared on purpose. And I want to start by saying something very clearly that Italy is a safe country. It's a fundamentally safe place to travel. Violent crime is rare. Gun violence is rare still. And the crimes that do happen here to tourists, particularly, are what we call crimes of opportunity. And they're petty thefts that occur when you're distracted, when your bag is in the wrong place, when your attention is somewhere other than your own pocket. And that's what we're really here to talk about.
Exactly. And just to put a number on it, tens of millions of people visit Italy every year and go home with nothing worse than sore feet and a gelato habit. So the fear that gets attached to Italy is outsized relative to the actual risk. That said, I live in Rome. Things have happened to me and people I know, and the petty theft that does happen is real and disruptive. So
Right.
this isn't a talk meant to say, oh, it's fine, stop worrying. It's here's what actually happens. Here's how you sidestep it. And here's how you don't let fear eat away at your trip, or worse yet, keep you from traveling to Italy at all.
Exactly. So the thing about crimes of opportunity, that sounds very sophisticated, and I guess they are kind of sophisticated thieves, but they require your cooperation. So not intentionally that you're cooperating, but a thief needs you to be distracted, to have something valuable in an easy to reach place, to not notice what's happening around you. And that moment that when you remove those conditions from the equation, you stop being that soft target. And that's what we want to get at today. And just a little quick housekeeping before we get into things. I have a special offer at the end that's only for people watching today. So do stick with us the whole way through. And then if you want to say hi in comments, tell us where you're watching from, or share whether anything has ever happened to you while you're traveling in Italy. We'll come back to those at the end. Okay. Laura, starting with you, you have had something go wrong, haven't you?
Yeah. So I had my iPhone stolen out of my coat pocket at a supermarket near my old apartment in Rome. Classic pickpocket, in and out without me feeling a thing. And I'm not some wide-eyed tourist who just got off a plane. I live here, I know the risks, and it still happened because I was distracted and let my guard down.
Right, right. And you also told me about something that happened to a friend of yours.
Yeah, a friend of mine from New York, again, street
Should
smart.
know better. She's from New York.
But anyway, she had her purse stolen at a restaurant in Trastevere. She set it down under her chair, went through the whole meal, and when she reached down at the end, it was gone. And the worst part is her passport was in it. She was supposed to fly home the next day, so obviously had to change her flight and rush over to the embassy. And that's what's really disruptive, right? If you lose a bag with your passport, then
Right.
you've got the whole replacement process, which is really disruptive. And
Right.
the thing about Trastevere is, it's busy and bustling, especially on nights and weekends. It gets really crowded. There's a lot going on. So it can be easy to get distracted and let your guard down.
Right, right. And of course, I have a confession to make too about Trastevere. Now we want to revisit this trauma. I have my own story, Trastevere story, and it's way more embarrassing. I always have some embarrassing travel story that involves an ex-boyfriend. So that's going to be like my brand, I think. But this is the same boyfriend I mentioned in the last episode, who we went to Venice for a day and had a miserable time. We're sitting on the steps at the Piazza Santa Maria in Trastevere. And of course, it was a big night with lots of wine and all our new friends. And I left, this is the days before our phone and our camera were in the same device, right? I left my phone and my little camera sitting on the steps next to me, and I didn't even realize they were gone until I got back to our hotel room. So I kind of had that one coming. But when you talk about Trastevere as a neighborhood where you're let your guard down, I'm like the poster child for that. And it just stays with me because I think people think you need to be cautious in sketchy areas, and then you can relax when you're someplace a little bit nicer. But that's not really how it works, because petty theft happens when you're in a beautiful, touristy, busy area, because that's where all the tourists are, right? So that's where the thieves are too.
Yeah, and the prettier the area, the more people have phones out for photos, bags hanging open, attention everywhere except their own pocket.
Right. So let's talk some practical things. What do you carry with you, and how what you carry with you and how you carry it can resolve a lot of this risk of theft. So I brought a few show and tell items. Very excited about this. This is my everyday bag. Okay, it's this beautiful handmade leather bag I bought in Venice. And what I like about this is that it has a flap. It looks gigantic. It's actually not that big. It just looks big because I'm holding it next to the camera. It has a flap with a button, so I can easily, slip my phone in and out of the flap, get to my wallet easily enough. But it's an underarm bag. Here, I'm doing a demonstration here. So it's always right here under my arm. And then if I feel particularly like I need to be a little bit more secure, I might turn it so that the flap is inside facing my body. So this is every day. And you have a rather elegant everyday bag too, don't you, Laura?
Yeah. I usually carry this small crossbody bag. And what I like about this is that it has this kind of clip enclosure that's like, it's not easy for a thief to get in there. And I usually just carry it crossbody and even keep my hand over it like this if I'm, on the metro or in a really crowded piazza or whatever.
Right. So the other one that I have, I always I like that bag tucked under my arm. I like turning it inward just for that little bit of security. Now, if Paolo and I travel together, particularly if we go someplace where, new territory for us, a place we haven't been, big city or something, this is what this very unsexy unisex bag is what we use when we travel. This is a Bagolini. I think I got it like at TJ Maxx one time. We're in the US. I probably paid about $20 for it. So it's a little worse for wear, but it's got all these zippers and it's a crossbody. So it's got a long strap. And the reason I like to carry this when the two of us travel together is that he can carry it too. So it doesn't just have to be me holding the bag. And again, this is another one. It goes across body. Or if we really feel like we need a little extra security, you turn it inside so that the flaps are facing inwards. And that's what we do.
Yeah, so you don't have to look like a tourist to be careful. You can have a bag that's pretty and smart.
Right. And then I know that this bag predates those, but there are these bags with, what are they called? RFID blocking things so that your credit card can't get skimmed or something. So there are a lot of options out there. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, there are a lot of bags specifically made for travel, which might be worth considering if you really travel a lot. But honestly, a regular bag worn the right way solves most of it.
Right. So that brings me to backpacks, which are baffling to me, I have to say. That's my bias showing. Okay. But I was recently through the Milan and Florence train stations, two of the busiest stations in Rome, filled with tourists, also a lot of commuters, particularly in Milan. And I was struck by how many people were just milling about with backpacks. mostly tourists waiting for, to get into the train, the secure area of the train. Am I wrong to think that these are impractical and even a little bit risky for city travel?
I don't use backpacks personally, but my husband Marco carries a small backpack to work, and my
Right.
sister and brother-in-law often travel with backpacks, so usually the larger ones. I mean, it is a little bit risky, obviously, because you can't have eyes on your back. So I think
Right.
you just have to be extra careful, especially in crowded train stations, on the metro, etc.
Right. They just, to me, it's just like, it just feels like, because I mean, I've had guests who stay with me who just carry their backpack with them for the day. And first I'm like, what do you need? I don't know what they need that they need to carry that much, but that's not my business either. But, in a crowded area, you bump into people, and I just don't like the fumbling that's involved with a backpack, because that's, for me, the key of an efficient bag is the ease of getting in and out of it. So
Right. And the way that people load their backpacks often makes it worse because they stick valuables in the outside pockets, since those are the easiest to get to, which means they're the easiest for everyone else to get into also. So you have your
right,
phone, passport, earbuds, all sitting right there.
right. So if you must travel with a backpack, nothing valuable should go in the exterior pocket, because these are easy to get into. And again, we're dealing with people who pickpocket tourists for a living, so they're good at what they do, right? But honestly, if I had to choose between a backpack and a crossbody, I'd take the crossbody every single time. Talking about keeping passports in your bag, Italian law actually requires that, I guess it's just for foreigners, that they carry their passport with them at all times. Or if you're an EU resident, it can be your national identity card. And I'm saying this from experience, because twice now I've been asked for mine at a train station, and then when I was on the train, and everyone in my party on the train was asked. It was very civil, the passport police or whoever they are come around and ask to see your passports and look, check, and tell you to have a nice day. And there's nothing menacing about it. But these checks seem to have intensified since the electronic entry system, the EES, came into effect here. This was about a month or two ago. So, and I think geopolitical tensions have added to that. So technically, you're supposed to carry your passport with you at all times, and not just a photocopy of it. But I understand, obviously, people would be wary of doing this. What are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, if you have to keep your passport with you, then make sure it's secure in an inside pocket of your bag, somewhere that's not easy to
Mhm.
get to. So, not easy for anyone else to get to
Yeah.
either. And then, save a photo of the photo page on your phone, keep a photocopy in your bag, and leave a printed copy back in your room,
Right.
because you want to have it in more than one place, right? Because if the passport itself is lost or stolen, you need to be able to reconstruct it. I mean, it's just
Right.
going to make things like so much easier if you have to go to the embassy. Um,
Yeah. It's not
and
easy, but it makes it easier. Yeah. So nothing about it is easy, but
right.
right.
But yeah, the phone backup is key also, because that
Hmm.
obviously is the fastest thing you can show if you need to and you can't get to the document itself in that
Right.
moment.
Right. So, what do you think about cash? About how much cash someone should carry with them, or whether they should carry it all?
I mean, you really don't need that much cash these days. I always have some cash, and especially coins for small purchases, like, if I'm just getting an espresso at a bar, but like almost everywhere in Italy accepts cards now.
Right.
So just carry what you need for the day plus a small buffer, and leave the rest in your hotel safe. And
Right.
it's a smart idea to split your cards too. So you should have a backup card that's not in the same wallet as your main card, because if the
Right.
wallet goes, you want to be able to function.
Right. And these are things, I think they sound really tedious too. It's like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that. But you know what they say about an ounce of prevention too. So passport stays on your person, kind of scary, but necessary apparently. Because I don't know if a photocopy, I haven't tested the theory about whether a photocopy or a photo of your passports is going to be enough for, it might depend on which Carabinieri stops you too. So, okay. So back to your friend who had her bag stolen from under her dining table. It always makes me kind of sad because outdoor dining is just one of the great pleasures of traveling in Italy. I know it's one of the great pleasures of living in Italy, but it's also a real vulnerability for people who have to carry bags.
Yeah, I mean, the classic scenario is a bag hanging on the back of the chair, especially the side facing the street, because someone can walk past, lift it off the chair, and keep moving, and you might not even notice until the end of the meal.
Right.
So, I mean, putting it on the ground under the table, which aside from the ground being dirty, especially if you're in a city like Rome, is just as bad. Out of sight, out of mind, and a very standard way that bags disappear.
Yeah, I know people have had their bags taken that way when they just set them on the ground by their feet and they still manage to disappear. So you probably eat in busy city piazzas more often than I do since you live in Rome. But so what do you do with your bag?
Well, if your back is to the restaurant wall, then the bag can go on the back of the chair because it's reasonably protected. And I do that all the time, honestly. But if you're on the street facing side, then things are a little bit more risky. Your options are more limited. So if the chair happens to have an armrest, then you could loop the strap around that, which at least keeps it off the ground. You could potentially loop the strap like around your leg as well. And then there's the other, uncomfortable but honest option. Just keep your bag in your lap for the whole meal.
Yeah.
It's not ideal for a long dinner, but sometimes it's the safest choice depending on kind of the restaurant and what's going on around it. And honestly, the choice of where you sit really matters as much as what you do with your bag. Because as I said, a table right on a very busy pedestrian street where foot traffic is constantly moving past you is a higher risk situation than a table further inside on the terrace or on a quieter piazza. So, restaurants in Italian piazzas tend to line the perimeter. So even just choosing a table that's not the first one on the pavement edge puts you in a much better position.
Yeah. I've gotten, maybe because it's the romance has waned a little bit, but if it's a really busy street, I would probably I opt for an inside table usually. The food's the same and it's just one less thing that you have to be wary about. I took a group to Rome here a couple months ago and we ate at a restaurant near the Pantheon and they had this tiny little terrace and it was just this constant, looked like a conveyor belt, a moving sidewalk of foot traffic going by. And I didn't want to have my people eat out there. So we ate inside and we had a lovely meal. Smaller town, smaller piazza, less crowded piazza where there's not this constant stream of people walking by. If it's not a thoroughfare, then that requires a little less diligence, right? And I'd be much more comfortable. But I'd still keep my eye on my bag and possibly keep my arm over it or something, So, so on to trains, which is a classic. We hear all sorts. I go on these different Italy travel forums and people are constantly sharing these stories about getting robbed on the train. Italy has a wonderful train network, but there are some specific things worth knowing. I've heard about people who put their bags in their, you get on the train car, you put your bag in the luggage vestibule, don't get to use that word very often, vestibule at the end of the train car, then go to your seat, your back's against your bag, you could be 15 rows up. And then when they go back to get off the train, their bags are no longer there. So what's your MO with your bag?
Yeah, I have heard of that happening too. So the rule is if your bag fits, it goes in the overhead rack directly above your seat where your eye can fall on it. If not, then, the trick that I usually do, honestly, is using the little like triangular space in between two rows of seats that face each other, which a lot of people don't even realize is there.
Right.
I
I'm
see this
pointing
all the
out to a lot
time.
of people. Yeah.
Like tourists with these big rolling suitcases come on the train and they're like looking around like, oh, where do I put my bag? It doesn't fit up above. It will most likely, I mean, unless it's like a really, really large bag, it will most likely fit under that little triangular shaped gap where the two rows of seats meet.
Yeah, you have to lay it on its side and slide it in. And
Yeah,
most
exactly.
bags will fit. I think we should do a separate webcast on not bringing giant bags to Italy. But the advantage, if you do have to leave a giant bag back in the vestibule, that's not something that somebody else can make off with quickly. I just would never leave a carry-on back in the vestibule where I can't keep my eye on it. Like that could go under my seat, above, in that slot between the seats. There are all sorts of options that don't have to involve taking your eyes off your bag. And then another one that I tell everybody with my trusty bag here is that if I have the good fortune to have an empty seat next to me on the train, I'll put my bag on the empty seat, but I always take this loop and put it through the armrest. My arm is on top of the armrest. So that means if I nod off, if I'm distracted, if somebody, and I've never seen this happen, but I've heard of it happening. If somebody were to dash through and try to make off with my bag, well, it's around the armrest and it's not easy to grab. It's a tiny thing. It makes me feel more secure. On that note, as a point of etiquette, if you are on a crowded train, don't put your bags on the empty seats next to you. Don't put your bags in the empty spaces in front of empty seats because you're taking space that other people need to sit down. I mean, you've paid for one seat on the train. So unless it's an empty train, don't take up additional space. So that's the end of my lecture on train etiquette. That's another good topic for our webcast. So anyway, what are any other pain points that you've noticed, Laura, when it comes to safety?
I mean, public transit, so metro, buses in Rome, especially, but in other cities as well. Just important to be extra vigilant there. In Rome, the 64 bus that goes from Termini Station to the Vatican is notorious for pickpockets.
Yeah. I've heard it referred to as the wallet eater.
Oh, I've never heard that, but I mean, it's been notorious for a long time. And Metro Line A too seems to have problems because more than the other lines, because Line A hits a lot of the major spots, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, Piazza del Popolo, the Vatican. So lots of tourists on that line and it can get really crowded. So I've heard people like tourists screaming, about pickpockets and thieves and just be extra careful. Don't keep your wallet or your phone in your back pocket when you're on a crowded metro bus.
Or in your bucket bag purse. Those drive me crazy too. I have so many pet peeves, but bucket backpacks and bucket purses are one of them. You can just reach right in. Like I could reach in and grab somebody's wallet out of a bucket purse, and I'm not even a professional thief. So
I wanted to add one thing that people tend to worry about that's usually not a problem is taxi drivers. So I hear I don't know, I feel like people have a certain amount of sort of paranoia that, you get in the taxi and it seems like the driver is taking a really roundabout route and you start to wonder if you're being taken for a ride in more ways than one. But in my experience, it's less of an issue than people make it out to be, especially if you consider cities like Rome and Florence are full of one-way streets. So cars often have to take a very different path than you would on foot. I mean, if you're looking at Google Maps, like you can see the difference of where a car has to go versus where you can go on foot, and it's usually more direct on foot. So if it's a licensed taxi with a meter running, I mean, it's almost always fine.
Right. And then the fare from the airport into any place inside the Aurelian walls is a set fare anyway. So there's not going to be it's hard to be taken advantage of with that. So the other thing that I've heard of, and again, I have not said that I have seen this, but that I have heard, is that you shouldn't let your guard down just because you're in a ticketed attraction. So inside the Colosseum or the Vatican museums, these are the most crowded, distraction-rich environments in Italy. People are packed together. They're bumping into each other. There's all this physical jostling. And that's exactly the kind of environment where pickpockets can operate really well. And people are less suspicious because they think, well, I've paid my ticket to get in. It's a secure area. And that does not stop thieves at the door. So again, just same rules. Just be aware of where your bag is and where your stuff is.
Yeah. Right. So the bag rules that we've gone over apply in those kinds of attractions just as much as on the street. So flap in or keep your hand over it. Don't keep anything loose. Put your phone away when you're not using it. Mm-hmm. Crowded and distracted are the pickpocket's ideal working conditions.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get distracted by, if you're just, trying to figure out where your train platform is, or trying to figure out where the entrance to the museum is, or there's so many things to figure out. Looking at your phone to figure out where Google Maps is taking you. Yeah, it's rife with opportunity. So let's talk about some positive things, though, since we like I said, we don't want to scare people, but we want to try to prepare people. So again, reiterating it, Italy is a fundamentally safe place to travel. So let's just talk about some things that you don't need to be as worried about, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the taxi drivers, I would say people seem to worry about Naples. It gets such an unfair reputation. I've gone through Naples many times quickly, but I've started to spend a bit more time there lately. Yeah. And I think it's one of the warmest, most dynamic and generous cities in Italy. And frankly, the idea that it's some kind of dangerous no-go zone is completely outdated. And by the way, statistically, can you guess which Italian city actually has the highest crime rate? Not Naples.
It's not Alerona.
No, it's Milan.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting. That doesn't mean you should avoid Milan either. Though that was seeing all that traffic in the train station the other day was a real wake-up call for me as we were getting ready for this webcast too. I was like, wow, so many opportunities. But that's not necessarily coordinate with what's dangerous on a map. Violent crime, again, against tourists is very rare. Physical assault is not your threat. Gun violence is not the threat. It's just somebody getting your bag when you're not paying attention. What else?
Night safety. Italian cities are alive late. There are people out everywhere until well past midnight, especially in the summer. Right. So obviously an empty street past midnight is worth being aware of, just as you would in any other place. But the idea that you have to be tucked safely back into your hotel room by 11 p.m. is just not the reality here.
Right. One exception that I would flag, because I had this come up with a guest who missed her flight and got in late and everything. And this is particularly for women traveling alone. Train stations late at night are a different story. So a busy piazza at midnight is fine. A nearly deserted train station at midnight is not the same thing. Again, particularly for women traveling alone. So I would avoid any kind of itinerary that puts you somewhere unfamiliar late at night, or whether you're change in a major station. It's not necessarily a given that you're going to be able to walk outside and find a cab at that hour either. So it's worth building your travel schedule so that you get in, early evening with plenty of cushion time to get to your destination. So, Laura, despite your best efforts, your phone got stolen. What did you do? What would you do in that situation? What should you do?
Well, first of all, try not to panic and don't bother chasing them, because you're not going to catch them. I mean, I had tracking find my phone set up on my iPhone. So I actually could see where my phone was from my laptop, but I mean, it was gone. Those thieves, as soon as they get a hold of your phone, they like basically take it apart, disassemble it. So
Right.
Anyway, what you should do instead is from another device or from a borrowed phone, remotely lock or wipe everything, assuming you set that up before you left. If we're talking about a wallet, then immediately get on the phone or go online to block your credit cards. Then, next step, go to the nearest police station and file the denuncia, which is like the police report.
The claim, basically.
Bring a copy of your passport or your original if you have it. The police might not recover your things. Honestly, I don't think they spend a lot of their time and effort trying to recover stolen items.
I think they've got bigger fish to fry than lost tourist phones, unfortunately. Yeah.
But you will need that report for any travel insurance claim. So you have to file the report anyway. Hold on to the reference number. And if your passport's gone, then the U.S. Embassy in Rome or the nearest U.S. consulate is your next call.
Right. Okay. And I had asked people to leave comments, and I honestly think I may have set this up so that it's not possible. So if anybody has any questions about safety or anything else pertaining to, any kind of travel question in Italy, you can shoot it to me in an email, and either Laura or I or me or both of us will get back with you via email. Okay, so for those of you who stuck around for the whole webcast, we wanted to just give you a little thank you offer, and that pertains to Villaggio tours. So if you book a 2026 or 2027 tour within the next 30 days, you get 30, wait a minute, what am I saying? 30% off? No, you get $300 off your booking, and you use the code SMART at the end of your booking, and the discount will automatically be applied. So it's just a little way of us to say thank you, and the hopes that you'll come visit us in Umbria. Or the chances of getting pickpocketed in Alerona are never zero, but they are very, very slim. So that code is good through July 1st of this year, and it's valid for those who have tuned in. So, all right, let's take this home. Italy is safe. Come visit. When you come visit, take away the conditions that make you a soft target. Carry your bag smartly. Keep your valuables where you can feel them, and then know the handful of tricks that people do use, that the bad actors use, and try to stay aware without being anxious.
Exactly. And I would add, don't let the fear of something going wrong stop you from going at all. The people that have the worst Italy trips are sometimes not the one who got pickpocketed. They're the ones who were so anxious that they couldn't be present. So preparation is what lets you relax when you're here.
Yeah, I think so. And that's true across the board, but especially when it comes to safety. So that's very well said. If you want to keep planning your Italy trip, you can go to Villaggio Tours and grab my guide on 5 roadblocks to an authentic Italy trip. And Laura, I understand you have some useful information on your site as well.
Yeah, you can find me at newromantimes.substack.com. I've got lots of Italy tips in the archives, including some fabulous under the radar destinations that you probably haven't heard of, in addition to my guides to Rome and Florence, Venice, and other cities.
How many years have you been writing the New Roman Times?
Since 2022, so it'll be 4 years this fall.
Oh, I'm bragging about her now. She has a really substantial library of great information there. And again, from the perspective of someone who lives here, not somebody who's just putting together random top 10 lists. So our next episode is on Thursday, June 25th, and we're talking about something that's a lot more fun than petty thievery, and that is what to expect during an Italian summer. So there's heat, there's crowds, but we want to talk about how to manage those things, some clothing choices that you can make, beach etiquette, and all just different, because going to a beach in Italy is so completely different from going to a beach in the US. Like, so
It's the
different.
best part of summer in Italy.
Yeah. And we can give you all sorts of pointers to help prepare for the most comfortable summer vacation in Italy possible. So watch your inboxes for that invitation. And until then, ci vediamo presto. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Liz. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.